Hi everyone, this is Sabrina from PlaceOS, and I've got Jon with me here today. And today we wanted to talk a bit about an article that we recently saw published by the Daily Mail in the UK. And this article is titled "University Orders All of its Students Back to Campus After Haunting Image Exposed the Reality of Student Life in 2022." So it's quite an interesting article talking about Sydney University's decision to have all of their students now attending in-person lectures back on campus. So from the beginning of next year, they're not going to be having any online lectures anymore, which means everyone will have to be back to campus. So basically a forced return back to campus. A couple other things that this article spoke about was, I guess, some feedback from university professors being unhappy with teaching over Zoom to empty classes, being there physically there in person. No one else is in the lecture theatre, and if they are doing this from their office, from their laptop, then they're just looking at a blank Zoom screen. They can just see everyone with their cameras off and their microphones off, and this has prompted the university to kind of bring everyone back to campus. So, Jon, just wanted to get your thoughts on this. What do you think this means in terms of the way universities are run? I guess over the last 2 or 3 years, we've been talking about hybrid workplace, hybrid education, doing a lot of this remote learning and the opportunities that has brought. What do you think some of the impacts or implications might be for a really hard switch back to only having physical presence?
It's interesting, this article, like it's taking very broad sweeping statements. And it's not like online teaching and learning is new. It has nothing to do with COVID. It's just it was widely adopted with COVID. But most universities had many of their lectures, particularly like the very large lectures, like Psychology 101. I believe at Sydney University, that is the largest lecture. The most students do Psychology 101 because it crosses over so many subjects and courses. So why do you have to be, in a lecture theatre of 1 in 500 people in that lecture theatre when you could just watch this online? There's no personal interaction when there's that many people in the tiered lecture theatre, right? So that's where online learning at universities particularly got traction, because it's, for a lot of people, a commitment to go into the university campus. They might not live there, they might have to work to support themselves and to pay off their university debts as they go. So it's a big ask to say only in-person education, and to me that's not very competitive. So firstly, I'd question these broad statements from this article. Like, do they mean back to a stage of online learning that is pre-pandemic, and still there's a mix of online and in-person? Where in-person is obviously vital is for the smaller interactive sessions. When I worked at the University of Sydney, a big focus of our work at the time, and this, I'm getting old now. I feel like I keep telling people I worked at the uni 10 years ago, but it's more like 15 years ago now. So a lot has changed since then, but at the time we were focusing more on smaller spaces for interaction with students to do teamwork, and replacing the numbers of large lecture theatres with smaller pods is the main thing. We called them, like for 4 to 6 people, very similar to what we're doing in workplace today, with a focus on those types of collaborative spaces. So in short, I just don't think it's these black and white views on things is the right approach. Everything needs to be tailored. Like our experience in activity-based working, there's the right space for the right time and the right work styles. This could be applied to teaching and learning, the right teaching and learning styles for the individuals. Everyone's different, but I understand where people are coming from, missing out on the student life, right? Like that's a major part of university, and I imagine when you went to uni, like that was a major decision point on what uni to go to, even.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, look, I completely agree with that. And we are talking about a Daily Mail article here. So I think, it's fair to say there's probably missing information. But, on the assumption that what they're saying is correct, it is going to be 100% back in person. What do you think some of the decisions this university and maybe others that might be thinking about this kind of approach in the future, what kind of decisions would they need to take in terms of, I guess, technology to support a move back to that? So obviously moving to a hybrid scenario, we would have had maybe a lot more deployment of conference equipment in rooms and lecture theatres to support online learning. But now that we're coming back to campus, what do you think some of the things we have to think about, not just with the teaching environment, but I guess kind of what you were touching on before, the whole experience of the campus? That's probably something that they're going to have to really draw on to actually encourage students to come back. If they've been doing their education online the last few years, why else would they come back to uni?
Well, I mean, this is where unis are competitive with each other. And here in Sydney, there's a number of unis competing with each other. I'd say, on top of my head, is probably Macquarie Uni, University of New South Wales, UTS, and Sydney Uni are direct competitors. Then there's different tiers for and different competitors for different courses. Maybe Sydney Uni's leaning on their strength of campus experience, even just where it's located. It's close to the CBD. It's in between the trendy Glebe and Newtown, and it has a history of like famous bands getting their start there. Like literally, AC/DC did their first gig in front of the university at Victoria Park. There's a swimming pool there. I watched this documentary recently that AC/DC played a gig on the roof of that swimming pool. And then if I saw on LinkedIn recently, Sydney Uni posted a photo of the home building, a historic building on campus, and people were sharing their experiences of seeing In Excess play there once. And this is just like ingrained into the university, the student life, the campus experiences, the colleges that are on campus. It's all very sandstone, nice gardens, close to good pubs, and on campus bars, pubs, and cafes that are like part of the fabric of Sydney. Like it's part of the music scene. It's part of even the cafe scene. People visit the university as tourists, and there's guided tours that take place there. So it would be leaning on their strengths to be competitive with universities that are further from the city. I also worked at Macquarie University, and that is if you live near the city, you leave early so you can get home in time and not and to beat traffic. So you're not staying back and going to bars and then kicking on into the city like you can at Sydney Uni.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I'm sure we'll see, technology be a really central part of shaping a lot of those experiences and how they kind of promote those and make those accessible to students.
And it's more than just novelty, I think, because like, there's this culture of, that's human culture to collaborate over food and drinks, right? And that's where ideas can start, which could lead to research at the university or collaboration. And Steve and I started our business at the pub at Sydney Uni, right? We had beers at the Royal right near the uni, and was speaking about our frustrations with technology on campus, which led to us eventually starting our own business. So that those elements, like having it completely virtual, you miss out on stuff. But there's universities that are very successful that only have online classes. So there is the opportunity to do both, and I think you choose the moments on when it's online and when it's in person, and some of that is obvious, but the university is going through the same transition as many industry verticals. What is the purpose of our physical space? Does it need to be redefined? And if so, how do we redesign the internal architecture, or indeed, how do we design brand new buildings to match the needs of this redefined physical campus?
Yeah, and there'll probably be some very similar trends to what we're seeing across the workplace vertical, where we need spaces that are agile and can adapt to many different types of uses, not necessarily just having your physical desk and then a meeting room. We need something for in between. So I'm sure we'll see a similar kind of trend happening with these unis over time. Okay, well, I think that's a pretty good recap of that particular article. Was there anything else you wanted to add in terms of maybe your thoughts on will this be something that we see a lot of unis doing, or do you think it will always just be somewhere in the middle?
I don't think so. And
Yeah,
I think because let's say Sydney Uni do this, they have the luxury of doing it. They're always going to be like a desirable university to attend. It's Australia's first university. It has the established courses. It attracts the best academics and has funding for research. It's got all the things that will continue the momentum. Like all the unis, they've lost money from international students, but everyone's in the same boat there, so they're on par with their competitors. But as we've discussed in an event we ran recently, the barrier to entry on being a university is lower because it can all be online. So I think each university will look at their strengths and lean on it. And
yeah,
universities we also work with that are very strong online, they will do the opposite of this. They'll improve their online education. They'll try to work out better ways of collaborating online. How do we have policies so the cameras are all on, so in smaller sessions the lecturer can interact with their students? And how do we find a space that might be closer to the people that's not necessarily a centralized campus? And all of these things that online education and universities that focus on online education are going through different set of challenges than a historic campus that has always had a physical presence in a city.
yeah, yeah. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, one article isn't reflective of the entire industry and what the whole industry is going to do. Um, okay, well, I think that's a great place to wrap things up. Thanks, Jon.
Thanks, Sabrina.